Hello and welcome to this Train Sim World 4 news episode where we're going to take a deep dive into the S-Bahn Vorarlberg and hopefully tell you everything you need to know ahead of the release on the 26th of September. So if you like this video, please consider hitting that like button and also subscribing. It always really is appreciated. And kind of without further ado, let's dive into this article that's just been released by Dovetail Games today. So we're going to be talking about the S-Bahn Vorarlberg, Lindau to Bludenz. And it's kind of worth, first of all, worth noting that this is the first ever Austrian route that's been produced by Dovetail Games, but also on top of that, it's the first ever route to be a border crossing as well. And as you can see on the route map that we have here in front of us, you see Lindau actually is situated actually in Germany, with the rest of the route being in Austria. So I'm quite excited to see what the border crossing is like, what we can experience, obviously being partly in Germany, and obviously with the majority of the route in Austria. There are 28 stations in total, so I think this has got scope for a great commuter route, hopefully some good stopping patterns to mix things up, but we'll come on to services a little bit later on. But also one of the key features of this route is the landscape. As it kind of says here, the dramatic mountains, verdant countryside and plentiful towns and villages set the scene in the far west of Austria, where it borders with neighbouring Germany, Switzerland and Liechtenstein. And you can see in the background here of this this shot in front of us, the beautiful mountains, and that I really am impressed with. I think if we cast our mind back to some of the TSW2-3 routes, there's definitely been a significant step up in what scenery is like now, and it just feels a lot more realistic and a lot more detailed. So big plus for me on that one. And as I said, there's 28 stations along the way. You've got regular stopping points in the state of Vorarlberg. It includes a branch line that heads towards the direction of Switzerland, stopping just short of the border at Lindau. Don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but on the banks of the Rhine River. It's a shame that it didn't make it into Switzerland, because that would have been so cool to have had multiple border crossings into 3 countries, but I guess that's just a step too far for Train Sim World at the moment, which it would have been nice to have seen more of that, but there we are. And then the inclusion of the branch line and the nature of the services on the main line make this route feel like a complete network encompassing everything that's great about railways across Central Europe and its borderlands. And there you go, get another shot of the 4024, or the Talent 1, and you can see it in its OBB livery, and you see the OBB kind of signed station building, I guess that is. So, and they go on to say Austria has been a country they've wanted to do for quite some time, and it's absolutely. It's also worth noting that there is another Austrian route on the Train Sim World roadmap, which is quite a way out, but is one on there. I'll leave a link in the description to this article. Here you've got a bit of a video that showcases the Talent 1. We will start talking about the locomotives and units. The one thing I really would say is I'm really disappointed with the sounds that have been included for the Talent 1. As someone who's not really familiar with German or certainly Austrian content, when I listened to it, it was very obvious that the sounds were the same as the Talent 2. Now, being quite naive about it, I thought, maybe it's an evolution, the Talent 2 of the Talent 1, so could be similar. But from doing a little bit further digging on the forums, and also actually listening to some real life footage of the Talent 1, it sounds nothing like it. So it just baffles me that those sounds have been used. They clearly haven't been able to get the original sounds for the train. It's really disappointing. So for those of you who have a keen ear for making sure the locomotives sound authentic, and obviously if you're local to this route, you will be listening out for that, so you won't get that natural immersion that you'd expect. So I think it's really disappointing. Hopefully they can take the feedback from the community that it's not acceptable and put a plan in place to rectify that. But something I definitely wanted to make you aware of. And it goes on to say, it comes from Talent 1, as we know. Players of the previous German content will be familiar with the Talent family of units. Of course, we've seen the Talent 2 on Rapid Transit and Dresden Theresa, and that's kind of, I immediately knew that from, driving the Talent 2 on Dresden Theresa a couple of times, they sounded obviously identical. So the 4-car OBB Class 4024 is a previous version built between 2004 and 2008, so relatively new. Its responsive acceleration, braking, and low form make this the ideal rail car for stop-start commuter services. Absolutely. We definitely want something that's going to be responsive. And also included in with this route is the DBBR 185 for the freight services, which is very cool. So included in the route is the 185, offering a selection of freight services and amongst the passenger heavy traffic. Another product of Bombardier, this electric motor locomotive sees action away from its familiar German surroundings by servicing both local and intermodal trains in Vorarlberg's timetable. Players of previous Dream Symbols will enjoy stepping into the familiar locomotive to get used to it on Austrian rails. Yeah, absolutely. The 185 has been somewhat of a staple of Train Sim World in the past. We've got it in its DB livery, but also in its MRCE livery as well. So it's nice to see that they've included a locomotive for the freight services. That's always nice to see. And of course, if you do decide to pick up the deluxe and special edition, which includes the BR195, the Vectron in its rail pool livery, it will also enable you to do some freight services as well. So with the Ineos wagons, whilst the primary route is high tech, while the primary route of this high tech locomotive will be the Dresden Theresa, it can readily cross borders for use elsewhere in Europe and has a number of services included on the S-Bahn Vorarlberg. So I'm excited to have a mixture of freight on this route. Hopefully, it adds a lot of depth to it. So, and then this is the bit that I think we've all been interested in, and certainly I have, is understanding the services and the layers that will be available for Vorarlberg. So services throughout Vorarlberg consist of a mix of all stopping and limited passenger train services using the Talent 1. So included is the S1, S2, S3, R1, R5, REX1 and S4 as AI only. I'll let you read those in your own time, but it very much does give a varied range of services. So hopefully you'll be able to get different lengths in terms of duration on the services, so you can pick something that's fits whatever you want to be doing at the time. And then we go on to layers. So the Luzerne to Circe, you'll get the REABE 523, which that's nice. That it's obviously to show that it's coming from Switzerland. Also will be the so if you've got Hamburg to Lübeck, Hamburger Rheinruhr and the DBBR 101, there'll be additional services with the MRC 185. And I think there's a nice picture of that just there. You can see the IC wagons with the two MRC 182, which looks very cool. I like that. Something a little bit different. And then, of course, if you also own the Vectron, there'll be some services as well. Adding to that, we've got the DB612 from Dresden to Chemnitz, which is just going to act as AI only at Lindau, and also the 628, which I think that that comes from Niedertalbahn, but it's the first time we will see it in its red DB livery. Normally, we would obviously see it in its white and mint livery in Niedertalbahn. And then adding to that, there'll be additional tanker freight services that could be hauled by the 185 and 193 if you own Dresden Theresa. So it feels like there's a lot of different layers available and services through owning other German content. So that's really, really positive. It's not going to feel dead, I don't think. Fingers crossed. And then we move on to scenarios, collectibles, and dioramas. The one thing I would say, it didn't give us a total number of services available, so hopefully we will find that out in due course. So there'll be an interesting selection of unique scenarios that'll be available. So featuring the treacherous alpine snow in the form of an avalanche. That's the whiteout scenario. Cross-border rescue operation for the Talent 1 International Rescue. And a rail tour with some interesting facts about the route. I guess the Grand Tour. Along the way, you'll need to hunt down some Austria-themed hats, fix broken snow height markers, watch your speed though. One local road monitors the speed of the cars within the area, and even manages to catch the trains as they run by. Yes, I've seen a little snippet of that. That does look very cool. It displays the speed that you're going by. And then keep an eye out for Train Sim Wars 4's new dioramas, which features track workers. And I think this is a big thing. This is something that's been missing for quite some time. So I'm really encouraged that we may see track workers. It's important that they're obviously represented because it does all add to the immersion. And there'll be some other dioramas, I believe, at stations such as coffee shops. So interested to see what that looks like. And then it just talks a little bit more about some of the upcoming features that are included with the core of Train Sim World 4. I've already done a video on that on the channel already, so please go check that out if you're interested. And here, there's the live stream that, as of the time of recording, later today. But if you do miss it, obviously you'll be able to watch the video on demand. So yeah, check that out, and you can obviously make make a decision on whether Vorarlberg is for you or not. And then it just goes on to say a little bit about it's obviously, of course, available to pre-order today. And if you do also pick up one of the special or deluxe bundles, it will give you 5 days early access to Train Sim World 4. Then again, it just got a little bit of pricing about the bundles themselves. So that wraps up this kind of everything you need to know. If there are any kind of more tidbits that I pick up, I will leave a comment down below, so do check that out. If you like this video, please consider hitting that like button and also subscribing, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye bye for now.